Hello everybody. So yesterday you guys learned how to translate in written language to algebraic. Today I want to focus on some harder examples, okay? So here's the chart we talked about yesterday. Some key points I want to remind you guys of for today. Remember with these three phrases, you got to switch the order for subtraction. That's very, very important. A lot of people had trouble with sum, difference, product, and quotient of. Those phrases I just put boxes around. When you have one of these four phrases, the two things you're working with come after the phrase. Okay, they come after it. Okay, that's very, very important. So for example, if I find one of the examples, here it is. The quotient of 5 and a number. Now some people will think the word and is an operational word. It's not. It joins the two things we're taking the quotient of, which is dividing. Okay, so see how the two things we're working with follow the phrase, the quotient. So it's 5 and a number. And since we're dividing, 5 goes in the numerator and x goes in the denominator. If it was the quotient of a number and 5, that would be reversed. If it was the quotient of a number and 5, x would go in the numerator and 5 would go in the denominator. So hopefully that's helpful for you. The other thing I want to talk about today is, well, one more thing before I get to that. The other thing I want to talk about today was if you have the phrase the product of. When you have the phrase the product of, what comes after it, those are two things being multiplied. So for example, you might have the product of 3 and a number. Well, that would be 3n. But anytime things are being multiplied, they go together. Okay, so make sure you keep that thing that's being multiplied as one unit if you have to move things around at the end. So for example, and maybe I'll just write down a problem for you. So let's say we have 9 less than the product of 2 and a number. And by the way, I did get a couple of emails about people having difficulty. I am here to help you guys. That's why I teach, to help students. But also make sure you're doing everything you can to help yourself. So what that means, you should be copying this down in your notes, okay? You should have copied yesterday's PowerPoint, or Google Slides, I should say. You should have copied yesterday's Google Slides in your notes. So make sure you take good notes, and also make sure you watch that supplemental video lesson if you had trouble. If you did those two things, I will definitely be glad to help you. But if you didn't do those two things, if you ask me for help, I'm going to ask you, let me see your notes. And if you don't have anything written down, I'm going to make you copy them down, because that's part of learning mathematics, is writing it down and experiencing it and getting that tactile understanding as well. The more you write things down and work with them, the easier they are to understand. So make sure you're doing that. But here we go. Let's break it down. If we follow our steps, we have a number. We're going to let that be x. And we cross off our words that mean numbers. So we have 9, 2, right? Now we got to identify our key words. We have less than, which is subtraction. And the product of is actually multiplication. Now remember, we just talked about this. When we have the phrase the product of, the two things we're multiplying come after it. So what's coming after it right now? Well, 2 and a number. So that's going to be 2x. Okay? The product of 2 and a number is 2x. Now to finish it, remember we had 9 less than? So you might think the answer is this, but it's not. Remember, less than means you're taking away from something else. So the final answer, this actually goes over here. Your final answer is actually 2x minus 9. Okay? Because it's 9 less, meaning you're taking that away from 2x. So again, your final answer is 2x minus 9 for this problem. And then one more thing I want to talk about today for your more complicated problems. There are many phrases that mean, let me go back here for a second. There are many phrases that mean parentheses, and that's what we're going to focus on today as well. So if we have the phrase the quantity of, that tells us we need parentheses. And then also, if we have the word times in front of times the sum of, times the difference of, times the product of, or times the quotient of, we're going to need that sum, difference, product, or quotient in parentheses. Okay? And also don't forget that is means equals. But we're really going to focus on this today. All right, so again, If they say the quantity of, that means you need parentheses in your problem. But if they have the word times in front of the sum of, the difference of, the product of, or the quotient of, you also need parentheses around that sum, difference, product, or quotient. So let's look at some examples. Okay. So make sure you copy this down. So I would pause the video, but we have 3 times the quantity of a number plus 4. So again, pause the video so you copy it down and then restart it once you're ready. Okay, so let's break it down. Cross off your words that mean numbers. That's your first step because you want to keep it easy. Now we actually have the number 4 written down right there. That's kind of nice. Now we have a number. Let it be your variable x. Well, times, that's easy, right? And then the quantity, that means parentheses. But just like sum, difference, product, or quotient, when you have the phrase the quantity, what comes after it goes into parentheses. And there actually will be an operation involved, and we have plus here. So 3 times the quantity of a number x plus 4. So it's 3 times x plus 4. And now when you have a number times a quantity like that, you just smudge them together. So you put that number right next to it. Okay? And you might remember that from actually pre-algebra. If you were asked to simplify that expression, you would distribute the 3. Although, that's not what we're doing today. We're just simply writing the algebra directly from the words. All right? So that's your final answer. All right, so go ahead and copy this one down. Let me let's fix that part while you're copying it down. It's a number P there. Sorry for my pensmanship. Not the best handwriter, but also, too, sometimes the stylus doesn't help. So we have 6 times the difference of 4 and the number P. So let's break it down. We have 6, 4. Notice I do the easy steps first, right? Now a number, they actually tell us to use P for this problem. So I'm just going to write a P next to it. Okay? Sometimes you can pick what variable you use, but this one tells us to use P. Now we have times and then the difference of. That goes together. Now remember, and is not an operational word. So if you look, we have the difference of the two things we're subtracting come after it. Well, it's 4 and P. And that and joins the two things we're subtracting. So it's 4 minus P. That's where we're taking the difference of. Right? But remember, we have 6 times this difference. And that was in the chart. I could go back to it to show you. If I go back to show you, remember if we have the word times in front of, the sum of, the difference of, the product of, or the quotient of, that sum, difference, product, or quotient has to go in parentheses. Okay? So in this case, that 4 minus P has to go in parentheses because 6 is being multiplied to that. Because times is in front of the difference of. So that's our final answer. Okay? 6 parentheses, 4 minus P. And then finally, here's a jumbo problem. So again, copy this one down and try it on your own. So pause the video. We have 1 subtracted from 3 times the quotient of a number and 11. Whoa. So again, copy it down. Here's our finisher. Okay, so hopefully you copy that down on your own. We're going to do the easy steps first. 1, 3, 11. Right? Cross off the words that mean numbers and write the numbers. Now the phrase a number is X. That's our second step. Third step is to identify keywords. You have subtracted from, which means minus. But notice it's subtracted from. Hint, hint. We have times. So I'll put a multiplication sign. The quotient of, division. Okay, and again, you just have to study these from your chart. Now remember, when we have the phrase the quotient of, the two things we're dividing come after it. So let's look what's coming after the quotient of. X and 11. The word and just joins the two things we're dividing. So it's X divided by 11. That's the quotient of a number and 11. Now it's 3 times that quotient, so this is going to go in parentheses. Because remember, if that word times is in front of the sum of, the difference of, the product of, or the quotient of, hopefully I'm not scribbling on it too much, we need parentheses around that sum, difference, product, or quotient. And then don't forget you had that 1 subtracted from. What do you think? Is that right? The answer is no. Remember, if you have less than, subtracted from, or fewer than, it means it's being taken away from the other thing. So actually this answer is 3 times the quantity, x over 11 minus 1. Okay? That's probably the hardest type of translating written to algebraic problem you could have for right now. If you could do a problem like that, you're going to be in really good shape. So again, what are some keys for this section? If I go back, a bunch of keys. First of all, you want to study this chart. And this is something in math you have to study. Okay, you have to make sure you know that quotient means division. You have to make sure you know that difference means subtraction. But if you have the phrase of difference, we didn't see that one a lot today, you actually keep the order the same. Okay? You have to know you have to switch the order if you have these 3 phrases. Okay, that means you're taking it away from something else. You have to know that sum, difference of, product of, and quotient of, the 2 things you're working with actually come after the phrase and are joined by the word and. Okay? And lastly, you have to know what implies parentheses. If you have the quantity of, and then the word times in front of, time, and so it would be times the sum of, times the difference of, times the product of, or times the quotient of. Whatever you're taking the sum, difference, product, or quotient of has to go in parentheses. So again, thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully you copied all those examples down in your notes. Have a fantastic day, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.